Survey shows in LGBTQ news, only 1 in 10 stories are about lesbians versus gay men. It's 2022, not 1992, and there's a lot to celebrate over lesbian visibility and representation both inside and outside the LGBT community. GLAAD, for example, reported that in 2022, it was the first year in history that lesbians outnumbered gay men among broadcast television's LGBTQ characters. GLAAD, quote, where we are on TV, end quote, report found queer women represented 40% of all TV characters, while queer men were only 35%. Another example is a new study published in the Journal of Social Psychology and Personality Science, exploring the attitudes towards non-heterosexual men and women in 23 Western and non-Western countries. It found that lesbians are more accepted than gay men around the world. Of course, we're way cuter. We would wonder if that same visibility was happening in our own reporting. A new survey conducted by Happening Out Television Network found that those type of successes did not continue for lesbians in key areas that shapes attitudes on the LGBTQ plus community. That area is reporting news and stories about the lesbian community. Happening Out Television surveyed leading LGBTQ plus media, including Out Magazine, The Advocate, Queerity, LGBTQ Nation, Pink News, SFGN, Bay Area Reporter, The Washington Blade, and other top LGBTQ media publications in print and online, including the networks of our own daily news program, Queer News Tonight. The results were surprising, but perhaps they were not surprising. Almost without exception, for every 9 stories that were done about gay men, only 1 story focused on a lesbian story or a lesbian community. Some did slightly better, many did worse. The UCLA Williams Institute suggests that when you combine lesbians and women who define themselves as bisexual, women are actually the largest number of representation in the LGBTQ plus community. The results on why LGBTQ plus media reports and reflects the male perspective of our community nearly 10 times that of women shows a much greater issue to address. Some platform numbers were 1 in 20 stories. 2 gay-dominated sites with 1 gay lesbian story in 50 gay stories.
Wow. Jeez.
Commenting on broadcast television representation results for lesbians this year, GLAAD president and CEO Sarah Kate Ellis told NBC News, quote, "So to see women be so front and center is a fine sign for me that there is progress, that we are moving forward," end quote. So while the survey shows non-scientific results, suggests that misogyny goes on in the queer community, just as it does in the broad American society, that surprise that a marginalized group would marginalize another group of our community is a surprise. I don't
Not a surprise.
agree. I don't agree.
You're not surprised. You're not
I'm not
surprised.
surprised.
Rosemary.
No, I am not surprised. I think one of the big surprises to me when I first started doing social justice activism, especially for the gay community, was that the men had their own standards.
Mhm.
And it didn't apply to women. They didn't care about the women. You know, we are the guys. We are controlled. We have the white privilege coming out our ears, especially as gay men.
Out their butts, but yes.
Well, I
was trying
think they had other things in their butts at the time. But needless to say,
Ladies. Needless to say,
the women were not being given any credit or any support. Meanwhile, we're out there, you know,
in the front lines.
doing
Right.
What Cindy was talking about before the
Socializing.
show was that like the heads of some major companies, right, are all women led right
Well,
now.
Organizations,
The
LGBT
leaders of
organizations.
major national
The task
organizations,
force.
the National LGBTQ Task Force, HRC,
Mhm.
GLAAD, you
Led
know,
by
they're
women.
all run
by women.
by lesbians.
Lesbians.
Yeah.
That's because they're gay. If you look at national corporations,
Right.
the ones led by women have their names changed. H&R Block, H&R is a woman. She doesn't want anybody to know that.
I did not
Dick's.
know
Wow.
that.
You learned
Dick's-
something now.
Dick's
Sporting
Sporting Goods, one of the country's largest.
Don't tell me her name is Victoria.
I don't know. Is the CEO, the woman is in charge of it, owns the company.
Right.
All
And
the
they
top
don't-
level management.
Yeah, all top level management. And so they don't want anybody to know that
Okay.
because their clientele are
A lot
men.
of men. Yeah.
So do we want to stay in the shadows to protect ourselves because it's a man's world, so to speak? I mean, is that why all these stories are not being done about us and our community
Well-
or the L?
So that was my question, like why?
Yeah.
So is it because the decision makers about what gets reported on, right, are mostly men?
Mhm.
Or is it because we're not as exciting or titillating?
We're
You know,
exciting.
Lesbians are vanilla, a lot of people say, or we nest, right? So we stop going out and we build families, and not that gay men don't do that,
Yeah.
right? But at a much lower rate than we do.
Right.
And is it because we're just not out there, like shouting from the rooftops?
I mean-
but I think it doesn't really matter why, right? It's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think it's necessary mainly because otherwise you heard it, right? So 40% of characters are lesbian, while 35% are gay men in fictional situations, not the news shows, right? So why is that important? Because we need to be able to have some kind of impact on what I call the L word effect,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, this is what a lesbian looks like and sounds like, but stereotypes don't help us, right?
At all.
So we've got to figure out a way to get our stories front and center just as much as the gay men. And what does that mean? Do we need to take leadership positions not only in
the media.
advocacy organizations,
Well,
but
in the
also
media.
Hey, but look,
the
right
media?
here-
Media companies are run by men.
Right here at Queer News Tonight, we put it right in the story as well.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
we've also done the same thing. Okay, I am like the lesbian of Queer News Tonight.
Right.
Okay, and on my own show, the Fay What Show, Monday mornings at 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in. And when I'm looking for lesbian content, I have to tell you, ladies, that it's hard to find some.
Sure.
Okay, I was very proud to do a morning talk show led by a lesbian. Nobody's doing that.
No.
But I wanted to talk about our issues. But the reality is that a lot of that substance is not out there for me to find and bring into my show.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Yeah.
Are we trying to be like, are we trying to be passable? Are we trying not to
In
like
some cases,
shake
I think
anything up?
yes. Yeah, I mean, I think in some cases, yes. Like, I recognize personally, I have a lot of privilege, right? I'm a white woman. I actually was married to a man and had 2 children, so I pass as a straight white mom. Somebody called me a
Soccer mom.
so
You're more like a yoga mom, but
right?
I get
Thank
it.
you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think we've got to be the ones who push that out there, right? Because in the past, it's been very easy for us to just kind of hang back and
Yeah.
pass and avoid violence, right? And going back to the earlier story that we were talking about, with our rights being attacked and things like that, we talk a lot on this show about how the more visibility that we have, the more under siege or under attack we become, right, from the religious right. And I think that that's part of the fear that holds us back from also being public figures.
Right.
I know that when we were fighting for the gay rights ordinance,
Right.
and a television reporter came up to me, and he said, we're covering what you're doing. We're outside commission chambers. The right wing was over there praying circles and threatening to shoot us.
Right.
It was like,
It was crazy.
it was
It was unbelievable.
it was a scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a scene. And so he comes up to me and he says, we need to interview somebody from the gay side so that, we can show them, and then we're going to show what he
And
did
you
say.
were
The
vice
crazy
chair of
people.
Save
So
It.
you're like, I'm here.
I'm the
Interview me.
co-chair of SAVE. And he
co-chair.
says, so we need to interview somebody gay. I said, okay, well, that would be me. I'm the co-chair of SAVE. And he says, oh, no, but you just look like somebody's mom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, I am somebody's mom. I have a beautiful daughter,
I'm a lesbian.
Yeah. But if you want to talk to somebody, You need to talk to me.
Yeah, those
you
things
know,
are not
I mean, it was
mutually
just like,
exclusive.
For you.
But again, going back to the stereotypes that also hinder us.
Yes.
Right.
right.
So
Right.
if
And I'm thinking, if I was at that rally again, how would I change the way I look
Right.
to say I'm a lesbian? I'm out here. No,
butch
I mean,
it up,
you're
Rosemary. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Butch it up.
I know. I maybe should go mohawk.
Well, and something also that I'm thinking about, and Lexi and I can attest to this being board members for the Aqua Foundation for Women, which was conceived because of these issues that are still going on.
Right.
Alicia Apfel, brilliant activist and attorney in the community, she's thought, with all the help that we gave the men during the HIV/AIDS crisis, and gladly we did that.
Yes.
But she's like, I don't need the whole banana cream pie, but I want a slice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how she originally, thought and founded Aqua. And to this day, and Rosemary and I have these discussions frequently as, the acting ED of Aqua, our main program has always been our scholarship program. And I can't get a man interested in giving scholarships to LGBTQ women to save my life. And I can sell ice to a goddamn Eskimo. Okay? But it's just not
It's
there.
absolutely true.
That's
You know,
really unfortunate.
I know. And, and the reality of the
puzzling.
situation is
It's really
that's where the money is.
Yeah.
The men
Yeah.
have, the older men, have more disposable income,
Yeah.
and so we're thinking about bringing Aqua Men back because I need to get in front of like 10 men and say, why?
Why?
I
Why?
mean, yeah.
What are we
Okay, so here's a question, ladies. All right, if the men are maybe not helping us and marginalizing us in an already marginalized community, are we doing the same thing to the T?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. 100%. So that's where my mind was going as you were talking. So I think it's one of those situations, right, where at the end of the day, like, who gets to draw the line, right? So, okay, now I'm accepted and screw you, next
Right,
one down,
exactly.
right? Like
Because that's what the G is kind
Yes.
of doing to us.
That's
Right.
what happens. That's what happens. And you see it in every community that achieves their civil rights or whatever, and then they marginalize the next group of people.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but I think it's human.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, when we were very successful with SAVE, we beat the bushes looking for trans
Oh, yeah.
people.
We did.
I mean, and I think we found one person who came to one meeting.
Yeah, I think back then we also were facing trans folks who were like, we don't want to associate
Yeah.
with the gay community. We're
Yeah.
trans. We just want to live our lives. We
Right.
don't
I'm
wanna-
not
I don't want to
gay.
be visible.
I'm not gay.
I'm not gay,
a
so why
lesbian.
do I have
Wow.
anything
You
to do
know,
with them? And
and-
they didn't understand, yes, you're not gay, but you really could use the support of people who understand the kind of
struggle.
discrimination you're suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was just really, really, it was impossible.
But that was back then. How about now?
Yeah, but see, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering now. Okay, that was what, 30 years ago, 20 years ago? How old are we?
1998.
1998.
But you worked on it for 5 years previous
Yeah.
to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
almost
20
30
years.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think
say we
I
made
think what
strides,
happened,
but-
and I'm hoping this is correct, is that trans people formed their own groups
Right.
and are protecting themselves. I'm hoping that's what happened, because nobody in the trans community that I'm aware of comes to us and says, "Can you help us?" And we
We were
could,
looking for
and we
that.
would.
But I do think that time has changed significantly since then, although it did take another how many years to get the trans added to the county human rights ordinance.
Yeah.
Funny story. I had a horrific surgery that day. I was in surgery for 11 hours.
Whoa.
And when I finally woke up, I could barely speak because they had that thing down my. And I said to Michelle, who was there with me, who's my ex, I said, "Did it pass?"
Oh.
That were the first words out of my mouth, and I was so happy that it passed because, I believe that anything that goes before, like the state legislature or any body, has to be inclusive. If
Right.
it's not inclusive, it shouldn't go.
Yeah.
I hear so many people saying, well, we got to get a little bit at a time. those days are gone.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time is done. We can't leave anybody behind. And
Well, what do you
I
say
think
to the
we're
people
there
that
now.
say if we leave the T behind, we will get
Well, that's what
farther in
happened
this
with-
fight right now?
That's what
say you're
happened with
wrong.
ENDA, right?
I would
So
say, I don't
the
care.
Employment Non-Discrimination Act
Yeah.
that we had attempted to get passed, they pulled the T out at the last minute, and it divided us all, and then it didn't pass
then it
because
still didn't
we
pass.
were
Yeah,
so divisive, right? And so we have to remember that as a group and united, we're stronger than we would ever be separately.
We
right?
can't leave anybody behind anymore.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yep,
Leave no letter behind.
that's right.
Right, there you go.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.